Dear children, we are going to begin with a new lesson in Indian economic development. Now, the new chapter that we are going to learn is an important element of Indian economic development. Now, you all know that you have learned in class 10 regarding different indicators of economic development, and national income is one such indicator of Indian economic development. Now, there are so many factors which contributes to national income. One such factor is the income which is earned by each and every individual, which is termed as per capita income. You have learned this concept in class 10, per capita income. It is the average annual income which is earned by each and every individual in an economy. Now, all the human beings in the society works for earning a living. We can find people engaged in different economic activities such as doctors, teachers, lawyers, engineers, shopkeepers who are doing self-employment. They all work for earning a living. When this becomes an activity, it is termed as employment. So, the chapter we are going to learn is employment. Chapter 7, employment, growth, informalization and other issues. Now, let us begin the chapter with the topics employment, worker and the labor force. Now, what is an employment? How can we define employment? Employment is an activity from which a person earns means of livelihood. So, employment is an activity from which a person earns means of livelihood. Now, any activity from which a person earns a means of livelihood is known as employment. Now, the people who works to earn a living, when that becomes an activity, it is known as employment. So, employment is related to working people. So, by studying about the employment or the working people, we are able to understand certain points. Let us see which are they. The study of working people gives an insight into the quality and nature of employment. What is the quality and nature of employment in our country? A study of working people or a deep study of employment helps us to study about the nature and the quality of the employment prevailing in our country. In what all areas people are engaged, in what employment, in what all types of work people are engaged, and what is the quality of the work that the people are doing. All these are the information that we get when we study about employment. Second point, it helps in understanding and planning human resources. You know, when do a human becomes a resource? Now, human resource, to become a human being, to become a human resource, he has to be well equipped with health as well as education. So, to know about the human resources, to understand and it helps in understanding and planning the human resources, how the human beings are utilized in our country. To know about that, the study of employment proves to be very useful. Now, the next is the study of employment or working people helps in analyzing the contribution made by different industries and sectors towards national income. Now, you know that labor force or people are required in working in different industries, factories, etc. So, the study of employment helps us to understand the contribution made by the industries. The industries cannot work without the workers. So, the study of employment helps us to analyze the contribution made by different industries and sectors towards national income. How many sectors do we have? 3 sectors: primary, secondary and tertiary sector, and we can find people are working in these sectors. Now, the contribution of these sectors depends on the contribution made by the people working in those sectors. So, a study of employment helps to know about the contribution of sectors to the national income. Then, it helps to address many social issues such as exploitation of backward classes, child labor, etc. Now, when we make a study of employment, we will be studying how many people are employed in our country. Along with that, we also will be learning about how many people are unemployed in our country, isn't it? So, when we learn that, we will be able to know how many people are unemployed, how many people are not able to do the work, how many people are willing to do the work but not getting the work, how many people are not willing to do the work, then how many people are suffering without employment, especially backward classes, and how many families are pushing their children to do the child labor. So, regarding all these, when we study about employment, we will be getting information regarding all these. So, study of employment as far as India is concerned is a very important topic. Now, we will move on to the next topic, that is worker. Who is a worker? A worker is a person who is involved in some economic activity. What is economic activity? Economic activity is an activity which gives monetary benefit to earn a living. So, who is a worker? A worker is a person who is involved in some economic activity to earn a living. So, any person who is involved in some economic activity to earn a living can be termed as a worker. So, those who are involved in the profession, any professions, they can be considered as a worker. Now, a worker always contributes to GDP. The term GDP is very familiar to you. What is GDP? The total money value of all goods and services produced in a country during an year is called GDP. Okay, so a worker can contribute to GDP. It arises from the three sectors like primary, secondary and tertiary sector, and I told you all these workers are involved in these sectors. Now, who all are included in workers? So, when we learn the definition of workers, we have to understand who all are included in the workers. Now, who all are included in workers? Point number 1, self-employed persons, shopkeepers, cobblers, all these people are self-employed. They are involved, definitely they are involved in workers. Then next is people who are temporarily absent. People who are temporarily absent from the work due to illness, bad weather, physical disability, festivals, etc. They are absent from the work only on temporary basis. Therefore, they cannot be termed, so as they are away from the work not on permanent basis, they can be termed as workers. So, the people who are temporarily absent from the work due to illness, bad weather and physical disability, festivals, etc. Only for a short period of time they are away from the work, but still they are considered to be workers. Then the next one is people who help the main workers. People who help the main workers, especially in the construction companies, we can find people who help the main workers. They also come under the category of workers. So, who all are included in the workers? First point 1, self-employed persons, people who are temporarily absent from the work due to illness, bad weather, physical disability and festivals, people who helped the main workers. These people are included in the workers. Now, next one is nature of employment in India is multifaceted. Why it is like that? Now, you can find there is lot of problems and differences existing in different regions and even in different states of our country. Let us see that. Just for an example, you can find the nature of employment in the rural areas as well as in the urban areas are different. Now, let us go to this particular topic in detail. Some get employment throughout the year, but some are seasonal workers. That is why these are the differences existing in the employment sector in our country. Now, some people are always employed, but some people are employed as per the seasons. They are seasonal workers, and you have learned the term seasonal unemployment. Some in some for a particular period of time, these people will not be able to do the work. They are not getting the work. That is why they are not doing the work. So they are, that is known as seasonal unemployment. So some people are seasonal workers. They will be getting the work only during the harvesting season, especially in the agricultural sector. So some people are seasonal workers. So some get employment throughout the year, some are seasonal workers. That is a major problem that we face in India. Next, many workers do not get fair wages. That is another serious issue that we face in our country. Many people are not getting fair wages for their work done. That is a major problem. It varies accordingly. From region to region it is varying. Now, that is especially in agricultural sector and construction companies in the urban areas. All these are the major problems. While estimating the number of workers, all those who are engaged in economic activities are considered as employed. All the people who are engaged in economic activities, what is their contribution, what is their earning, that is not taken into consideration. Some or the other way, those who are involved in the economic activity are considered as employed. So that is also another problem, because just to that second point we have already learned, some of the people are not getting fair wages for their work done, but they are involved in economic activity. So they also come under the category of employed. So these are the major variations and few difficulties associated with the concept of employment in India. Now, as per the study in 2011-12, the total number of workers in India was 473 million persons. In that, 3/4 were rural workers. In that, 70% are male workers and rest with female workers. 473 million people are workers as per the data collected of in the year 2011-12. In that, 3/4 were rural workers. Then 70% of the male workers and rest with female workers. Now, participation of rural women is the next topic. Now, what about the participation of women in the rural areas in the employment? Let us see that rural women participate in large number in productive activities as compared to urban women. What is the reason for that? Because in the rural areas there is no other option. In order to earn their living, a family as a whole has to depend on agricultural sector, agricultural farm, because in the rural area we emphasize on the farm work. So the family as a whole has to work for earning their living. So definitely the women also will contribute in the farm work. So the majority of the women workers are involved in the farm work of their own, or they also go to work in under the landlords. Okay. Now next is, the women are not paid cash or grains for their work. So these women are not considered as workers. Just now I told you, the women who are working for their family in the farm, they are not paid money and they are not getting any grains as benefit. So those category of women are not considered as workers. There are women workers who work under certain landlords. They can be considered as workers, but the women workers who are working in their own farm to help the family members, they are not getting any monetary benefit. So they are not considered as workers. Next we will move on to the topic labor force. Okay, I told you in the first session we will be discussing with the topics employment, labor force and the workforce. Now we will move on to the next topic, that is labor force. What is labor force? All persons who are working and though not working and are seeking and are available for work are considered to be in labor force. So three aspects are coming here. All persons who are working and though not working, they are seeking the job and are available for job. Now they are known as labor force. Now labor force is equal to persons working plus persons seeking and or available for work. So, this definition is written in this form of equation. Labor force is thus equal to persons working at present plus persons though not working now, but they are seeking and they are available for work. They can be considered under labor force. So, once again labor force, those who are working at present plus though not working, they are seeking a job or they are available for a job, that is known as labor force. Now, next we will move on to how to calculate the labor force. How to calculate labor force? To get the labor force, subtract the following from the total population. How to get the labor force? So, how to calculate the labor force? Equation for the labor force is people who are working plus though not working, people who are seeking and are available for job is known as labor force. But for the doing the calculation, we have to follow the particular step. What is that? To get the labor force, subtract the following from the total population. So, from the total population only we are calculating the labor force. To find out the labor force in terms of numbers, what we have to follow? Okay, generally speaking, labor force is equal to the people who are working at present plus though not working, who are seeking and are available for job. But when we have to represent it in the form of numericals, we have to follow this particular step. What is it? It is to get the labor force, subtract the following from total population. What has to be subtracted? What has to be avoided? The people who are unfit, like old or handicapped, has to be avoided. Then people who are not willing to work, then people who are not available for work. Okay, definitely. Now, in the definition we have told labor force is equal to people who are working at present plus though not working but seeking or available for job. So, when we are calculating the labor force numerically, we have to avoid these categories of people. Which are those categories of people? Who are unfit due to handicapped or old age, then who are not willing to work. People who are willing to work, we are included in the labor force, because in the definition you can find people who are seeking for the job, they are willing to work. Then who can be avoided? Next, who has to be avoided? People who are not available for work. Because in the definition of labor force we have included people who are available for work. So, definitely people who are not available for work and people who are not willing to do the work has to be avoided. So, only people who are willing to do the work and who are available for the work plus people who are working at present has to be added for getting the labor force. So, this is how we have to find out. I think it is clear to you. Labor force is the number of people who are working at present plus though not working at present but seeking for a job and who are available for a job. Now, for calculating the labor force, we have to avoid people who are not willing to work, people who are not available for work and people who are handicapped or old age. So, we can say those people who has to be excluded from labor force are the following: children below 15 years and people above 60 years. Okay. Now, labor force participation rate is the next topic that we are going to learn. What is this labor force participation rate? The ratio of labor force, you know what is a labor force? The ratio of labor force to the total population is called labor force participation rate. What is the total labor force participation rate in our country? To know that, labor force participation rate is equal to ratio of labor force to the total population. Now, we will move on to the last topic of this session, that is workforce. What is this workforce? Number of people who are actually employed at a particular time. This is very important. At a particular time is known as workforce. So, what is a workforce? The number of people who are actually employed at a particular time. That is very important. That is known as workforce. Now, calculation of that is known as workforce. Now we will move on to the calculation of unemployed people. How will you calculate unemployed people? Now previously we have learned about the topic labor force, and now we have learned about the topic workforce. What is labor force? Once again I am telling you, labor force means in general the people who are working at present plus people though not working but seeking and are available for doing the work. Workforce means the number of people who are actually employed at a particular time period. That is very important. That is a major difference between labor force and workforce. In a labor force, that particular time is not given. At present, how many are working? But in a workforce, it is specific that at a particular time, how many numbers of people are actually employed. By using these two concepts, we can find out the unemployed people in our country. So, the calculation of unemployed people, how will you calculate unemployed people? Unemployed people is equal to labor force minus workforce. So, unemployed people is equal to labor force minus workforce. That is how we calculate the concept of unemployed people. So, unemployed people is the difference between labor force and the workforce. So, I hope these three topics are clear to you: employment, labor force and workforce. Thank you.